Africa. Welcome to my channel once again. Today we're going to discuss something really interesting. Is being a medical laboratory technician for you? Is MLS suitable for you? Let's find out. So MLS, which means medical laboratory science, is a detective career where we pinpoint the cause of a disease through the examinations and the analysis of blood, tissue, and other bodily fluids. So when do you know that studying MLS is right for you? The first thing, are you excited for science? Do you love biology? Do you love chemistry? Are you interested in knowing about cells, tissues, chemical composition and interactions? Do you want to try and figure out which organism causes a specific disease and which exactly antibiotic will kill it? Another thing to consider is, are you a detail person? Do you value accuracy? Do you notice the small things? Remember, the results that you're going to verify will directly affect how the patient will be treated or managed by the doctors. This may have big implications and has great impact with how they're going to be managed. For example, when you want to give blood to a specific patient after the donor has donated the blood, remember that if you do not notice a clot during the process of doing the lab analysis, there is a possibility that the patient is going to have what you call a transfusion reaction, meaning his body is going to have a reaction and it's not a nice thing. The patient may even die. Prefer to work behind the scenes. Remember, the MLTs, the people who work in the lab, mostly in hospitals and in research institutes. The only time that you and the patient have a one-on-one is when you're withdrawing blood from them or when you're giving them instructions on how to collect their bodily fluid, mostly urine, or when you're conducting a bedside test in the ward. So normally we play a very integral role in the healthcare system without being noticed. And if you love working behind the scenes, this is definitely a career for you. Another thing to think about is, do you have good communication skills? Remember, you'll have to communicate with your doctors, with the nurses, with the pharmacist during meetings and running some specific tests. You may find that your results may be too high or too low of something. For example, creatinine, which is a byproduct of your muscle waste. When it's too high, it says you may be at risk of getting kidney failure. When your bicarbonate levels are too high, it means that, or too low, you may be having some metabolic issue. Seeking for a stable career as an MLT, the chances of getting a job are quite high. It's a marketable course since we work in the hospitals and also in the research institutes. MLS involves studying of 6 major disciplines, that is hematology, blood transfusion, microbiology and molecular biology, parasitology, clinical chemistry, and histocytology. One can work in either of the departments, and sometimes to avoid boredom, some hospitals and research institutes will allow for rotational shifts so that you don't get too familiar in a specific department and you get too bored with it. I will discuss the major departments in another video after this. So are you also an organized person? As an MLT, you'll have to be organized because first when you come to the lab, you'll have to first run you have to calibrate your machine, that is making sure that your machine is actually working. Then you also have to run a quality control material so as to make sure that the results you're going to give this patient will be the true result. QC fails, and QC, I mean quality control material sample, you have to repeat once again until it passes. And remember, there are also other samples that are waiting for you, so you have to be a little bit fast and smart. You have to organize your work so that at the end of the day, if you're working on an 8-hour shift, you will be through before those 8 hours are over. What are the cons of being an MLT? What are the cons of studying medical laboratory science as your career? One thing you have to bear with is that you work for long hours and you have a night shift. So if you're a person who actually believes in just working 8 to 5, Unless you're working in a research institute, working in a hospital, in a busy hospital, I don't think it will work for you to work at night. You also, when the machine fails to function, you have to make it function, and that is what you call troubleshooting. Then another thing, people outside the lab setup may decide to look down upon you, which you have to look for emotional strength yourself or your friends to uplift you. Last disadvantage of being an MLT is that automation is real. Nowadays, machines have come and they're making our lives simpler, but that equals less people being employed. But the truth is, so far, there is no machine that can withdraw blood. So, and we tend to think and we are able to tell if the machine is telling the true results or not. So that's why it should be important. Take this as your career. Does it take for you to study MLS? One, you need to go to accredited institution, be it a college or a campus, study for a diploma or a degree. Personally, I studied in Kenyatta University where I went for hospital attachments after every academic year so that you're able to know what exactly you're getting yourself into when you're in first year. And that means you'll never have long holidays when you go to Kenyatta University. Institutions have different standards, and this I'm very particular with the attachment periods because what you'll do in KMTC will definitely differ with what you do in KU, will definitely differ from what you do in JQuat. Instead, we are all accredited by the same board in Kenya. After you complete your campus or your college studies, you'll have to sit for a board certification exam, which is given by the board that governs medical laboratory science in Kenya, which happens to be KMLTTB. And they offer these exams twice in a year. The last time we checked, on May and November, and only when you pass is when you'll be allowed to practice MLS in Kenya, anywhere you want in the country. So it was nice hanging out with you people. Subscribe if you have any questions. Please link them up below. I will check on them, and I love that you're part of my world. Bye, family.